Ralph Murphy cursed as his advanced human stealth ship's sensors pinged, detecting the impossible. An invisible Riemann vessel, cloaked with technology far beyond anything the Galactic Council races possessed. He immediately reported the sighting to his superiors, heart pounding. They expressed stunned disbelief. Stealth so perfect was unheard of. The Admiralty ordered Ralph to track the ghost ship and gather intel. As he monitored, the Riemann vessel moved erratically, with sudden stops and course changes, as if testing its cloak's limits. A sense of dread knotted in Ralph's gut. The Riemanns were preparing something big, something bad. Tense minutes turned to hours. Admiral Kozlov, going on a hunch, placed the human fleet on high alert. Given the bad blood between the races, she couldn't ignore the signs. 20 years ago, the Riemanns attacked a human colony without warning or mercy, slaughtering millions. It took the desperate arrival of the colony's defense fleet to repel the aliens after horrific losses. Humans and Riemanns had been locked in a bitter Cold War since, with frequent clashes on their borders. The Galactic Council's attempts to mediate always failed. Many races feared humanity's growing power and resented their rising influence. The Council seemed content to let the Riemanns check human aggression. So as Ralph watched the scope, seeing first one, then two more ghost ships join the first, he knew the other races would never warn Earth. And when the Admiral's reinforcements arrived, Squadron Leader Trent Garrick told Ralph to prepare for imminent attack. Humanity stood alone. The Riemanns were coming, and it would take a miracle or a fatal flaw in their cloak to stop them from burning every human world to ash. As Ralph tracked the invisible fleet's advance, he prayed he could somehow find that flaw, because if he failed, billions would die. 13 Pendoster. As Admiral Kozlov's fleet closed in on the massive Riemann dreadnought, every human ship opened fire, concentrating their attacks on the warship's devastating arsenal. Plasma bolts and missiles hammered the dreadnought's plasma cannons and missile launchers, the relentless barrage quickly overwhelming and destroying the deadly weapons in flames and explosions. Yet even with its offensive capabilities neutralized, the Titan's powerful shields continued to shrug off the human fleet's firepower. Kozlov slammed his fist on the arm of his command chair. "We don't have time to whittle it down. We need to get inside those shields and take it out now." He keyed the fleet-wide comm. "This is Kozlov. All Marine teams, prepare to board the enemy dreadnought. Your mission is to take out their shield generator no matter the cost. Mira, you have the lead." On the flagship's hangar deck, Captain Mira nodded grimly inside his heavy combat armor as he prepped his men. The former Riemann rebel had enlisted with the human military after his own people slaughtered his family and raised his homeworld for defying Riemann rule. Now he would take his revenge. "Mount up," he bellowed to his troops. "Let's show these bastards what it means to fight humans." Mira's assault shuttles streaked from the hangar, dodging enemy point defense fire as they closed on the dreadnought's armored hull. Pulling up at the last second, they slammed into the warship and mag-locked themselves to its surface. Cutting tools flared white-hot as the Marines carved through the thick armor, breaching the ship's interior. Mira was the first one through the smoking hole, his plasma rifle spitting blue bolts at the Riemann defenders. His men poured in behind him, engaging the enemy in brutal close-quarters combat as they fought their way towards the shield generator. Reaching the massive chamber, Mira's demolition experts raced forward and began placing high-yield charges on the generator's housing, while the rest of the team formed a defensive perimeter. They were half-finished when a hail of plasma fire scythed through their ranks. Riemann security forces had caught up to them. Half of Mira's men fell in the opening volley, their armor no match for the onslaught. Mira dove for cover, his rifle blazing as he cut down the lead Riemann trooper. "Blow the charges," he roared at his demo team. "We'll hold them off." Plasma bolts crisscrossed the generator room as the humans and Riemanns traded fire. One by one, Mira's men fell until only he remained, his rifle growing hot in his hands. Just as the Riemanns moved in for the kill, a tremendous explosion rocked the chamber as the demolition charges detonated, consuming the shield generator in an inferno of roiling plasma. The dreadnought's power grid surged and failed, its protective shields flickering and dying. On the bridge of his flagship, Kozlov watched as the dreadnought's shields collapsed. "All ships, weapons free! Target their reactor and fire!" A storm of plasma bolts and missiles converged on the unshielded warship, piercing deep into the heart of the reactor. Containment failed in a blinding flash as the dreadnought's power core went critical, tearing the mighty vessel apart from within in a cataclysmic explosion. Ralph gripped the bridge railing tight as the view screen polarized against the glare of the exploding dreadnought. "Come on, Mira, where are you?" A battered Raymond shuttle burst from the fireball, dodging chunks of spinning debris as secondary explosions chased it. Ralph let out a whoop as the shuttle's IFF code flashed on the screen. Mira had made it. The remaining Riemann escorts fled before the human fleet's guns, their broken formations scattering. As the adrenaline of battle faded, a comm officer called out to Kozlov. "Sir, we're receiving a hail from Galactic Council headquarters. They've called an emergency session to address the Raymond's violation of the treaty banning cloaking technology." Kozlov turned to Ralph and Mira, the latter having docked aboard the flagship. "Looks like your mission isn't over yet. I need you two to get to that session and testify about what happened here. Give those counselors the proof of the Raymond's treachery." Mira and Ralph took a shuttle down to the council headquarters, the massive space station looming before them. As they strode into the grand chamber, they froze in shock at the sight of a Riemann ambassador already at the central podium, gesticulating angrily at the assembled alien delegates. The ambassador stabbed a finger at the human arrivals, his words dripping venom. There are the human aggressors fresh from their unprovoked and illegal attack on our peaceful mission. These humans are a blight upon the galaxy that the Council must deal with immediately." Ralph marched to the center of the council chamber, his boots ringing on the polished floor. He held up a data chip. "This contains sensor logs, battle recordings, and wreckage scans proving the Riemanns violated the treaty. They attacked us with cloaked ships, including a Titan-class dreadnought." He slotted the chip into the chamber's holoprojector. The Rayman ambassador Zorgak scoffed as the damning images played. "Fabrications! The humans attacked without provocation. Our ships were on routine exercises." Murmurs of agreement rumbled from council members. Many nodded at Zorgak's words, their faces smug. Mira stepped forward, fists clenched. "Exercises? With a dreadnought? The treaty bans warships that size." Zorgax blinked, then waved a hand dismissively. "A decommissioned relic used for training, nothing more." Mira snarled, but Ralph grabbed his arm. He addressed the council. "If you're so sure, send a fact-finding team to investigate the wreckage. Confirm if that ship was mothballed or fully armed." The councillors glanced at each other uneasily. To refuse would be an admission of guilt. "Very well," the head councillor said reluctantly. "We will send—" A klaxon blared, cutting him off. An aide rushed in. "Councillors, we've received a distress call from the human colony of New Madrid. They're under attack by Riemann forces using the same cloaking tech." The chamber erupted in shouts. Ralph paled as the aide continued. "The colony's defenses have fallen. Riemann troops are landing in force." Mira whirled on the council. "You must send the fleet to stop this invasion." Zorgax cut in. "We must investigate carefully before acting hastily." "Investigate?" Ralph shouted. "While civilians die, while the Raymonds conquer and pillage?" But the council hesitated, unwilling to commit. Mira saw the indecision on their faces. Inaction, delay, as always. Ralph stood. "Enough. While you dither, human lives are lost. We don't have time for your bureaucracy." He turned on his heel and stormed out, Mira right behind him. In the corridor, Ralph pulled out his comm. "Admiral Kozlov, the council is useless. That colony needs us now." "Agreed," Kozlov replied. "I'm mobilizing the fleet as we speak. Get back here on the double. I have a critical mission for you two." "On our way." Ralph signed off and quickened his pace. Ahead, the docking bays came into view. Suddenly a ripple flashed in the air before them. A Riemann assassin materialized, blaster firing. Guards fell, cut down before they could even draw weapons. The assassin sprinted past the corpses, vanishing as his cloak re-engaged. An instant later, a diplomatic shuttle lifted off from its pad, the Riemann no doubt at the controls. Mira cursed. Suns above, personal cloaks. If the Riemanns equip their ground troops with those... Ralph's eyes hardened. Then nowhere will be safe, not even here. He broke into a run. Come on, the Admiral's waiting. Ralph and Mira raced through the corridors of the Council headquarters, their boots pounding on the polished floors. They burst into the docking bay, sprinting towards their shuttle. As they reached the ramp, Ralph's comm crackled to life. Ralph, Mira, get your asses up here now, Admiral Kozlov barked, his voice strained. The colony is lost. We just arrived in system and it's a goddamn massacre. Ralph and Mira exchanged a grim look as they strapped into their seats, the shuttle lifting off before the ramp had fully closed. The Riemanns are slaughtering civilians. Bastards are going door to door, executing everyone they find, men, women, children. Kozlov's voice broke on the last word. Mira's fists clenched, his eyes hard. We're on our way, Admiral. The shuttle tore through space, pushing its engines to the limit. As they approached the fleet, the scale of the battle became clear. Kozlov's ships were engulfed in a storm of plasma fire, the hulls of Riemann vessels flashing in and out of sight as they cloaked and decloaked. The shuttle wove through the chaos, dodging debris and energy blasts. It shuddered as it entered the hangar bay of Kozlov's flagship, the deck lurching beneath their feet from a nearby impact. Kozlov met them at the door to the bridge, his face haggard. The viewscreens showed a hellscape, the colony burning, its once gleaming towers reduced to rubble. Riemann troops swarmed through the streets, plasma rifles flashing as they cut down fleeing civilians. The colony is lost, Kozlov said heavily, but we can still hurt the Riemanns, cripple them. He turned to Ralph and Mira. I need you to lead a strike team onto their flagship, capture their cloaking device intact. We need to study it, reverse engineer it. Ralph nodded grimly. We'll get it done. Minutes later they were back in their shuttle, a hand-picked team of Marines at their backs. They flew towards the Riemann flagship, the massive dreadnought dominating the battlefield. As they neared, Ralph activated the shuttle's captured cloaking device. The Riemann ship loomed before them, growing larger and larger until it filled the viewscreen. At the last second, Ralph wrenched the controls to the side, bringing the shuttle up and over the dreadnought's hull. They skimmed along the surface, searchlights sweeping past mere meters away. Ralph brought them to a stop over an airlock, the shuttle's docking tube extending to latch onto the hull. Plasma torches flared as the Marines cut through the airlock. It gave way with a hiss of escaping atmosphere, and they poured into the ship, weapons ready. Alarms blared as they pushed deeper into the vessel, Riemann soldiers pouring into the corridors to block their path. Plasma bolts filled the air, the Marines advancing relentlessly behind a wall of covering fire. Mira took point, his massive frame shielding the others as his rifle spat blue death. Ralph directed the Marines, coordinating their fire and movement with sharp hand signals. They fought their way to the engineering section, the cloaking device looming before them, a pulsing mass of arcane technology. As the Marines formed a perimeter, Ralph and Mira approached the device, tools in hand. But as they pried open an access panel, they froze in horror. The cloaking device's power source was revealed, and it was not a reactor or battery. It was people, human beings, wired into the machine, their bodies withered, their eyes vacant. And in the center, her blonde hair now shot through with grey, was Lila, Ralph's wife. Ralph staggered back, his rifle clattering to the deck. No, Lila, I thought... His voice cracked. I thought you were dead. Mira grabbed Ralph's shoulders, shaking him. Ralph, we have to do this. The fleet is dying. Ralph shook his head, tears streaming down his face. I can't leave her again. Mira's jaw clenched. He raised his rifle. Forgive me, he whispered. And he fired. Again and again, the plasma bolts tearing through the captives, through Lila, the bodies jerking and going still. Ralph screamed, lunging for Mira, but Mira held him back. I had to, he shouted over the sounds of battle. It was them or the fleet. the needs of the many outweigh the needs of the few. The cloaking device sparked and went dark, the Riemann ship shuddering as its primary power failed. On the bridge of the flagship, Kozlov watched as the dreadnought flickered into view. "All ships focus fire on the dreadnought," he roared. "Full barrage!" The human fleet opened up as one, every cannon, every missile, every torpedo slamming into the Riemann flagship. Explosions marched across its hull, secondary detonations gutting the mighty ship from within. In the engineering section, Ralph and Mira staggered as the deck heaved beneath them. Girders groaned and snapped, consoles exploding in showers of sparks. "We have to go now," Mira yelled, dragging Ralph towards the exit. They ran, leaping over debris, the ship coming apart around them. They barely made it back to the shuttle before the flagship reactor went critical, consuming the dreadnought in a miniature sun. The Riemann fleet, seeing their flagship destroyed, broke and ran. The battle was over. The colony was saved, but the cost had been too high. In the aftermath, the Galactic Council stripped the Riemanns of their seat, the evidence of their atrocities too great to ignore. Sanctions were imposed, reparations demanded. The humans, once the upstarts of the galaxy, were now its saviors. But Ralph and Mira took no joy in the victory. Ralph, haunted by the death of his wife, by Mira's betrayal, resigned his commission and disappeared into the dark underbelly of the galaxy, surfacing years later as a bitter, hollowed-out mercenary. And Mira, racked with guilt, threw himself into his work, rising through the ranks to become the first Riemann admiral in the human fleet, the weight of his sins never far from his thoughts. The galaxy turned, the years passed, and then from the depths of the void a new threat emerged, a threat that would bring Ralph and Mira face to face once more, the fate of everything they had fought for hanging in the balance. You have reached the end of the story. If you enjoyed this story and want to support us, please leave a like and subscribe to our channel, and for every comment that says 88, I will heart every single one of them. Thank you for your time.